We're looking good.
Intro. So we are here with our BMore Unfiltered ladies.
Yes. To talk about
sex, y'all. So I just love hosting and co-hosting this podcast with the amazing Rebecca. And then today, yes, Rebecca, introduce our guests today.
Yes, a wonderful guest. These two lovely guests are bunching in her leadership program fellows and strong, phenomenal women that are going to be part of our team to promote our event in February as Black History Month and Black Love Month. So, yes. Mama Gina, I'm going to let you introduce yourself first, and then we're going to go to you, Coach Steve.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Hey y'all, hey y'all.
Hello.
So I am Mama Gina, and I am the founder of Own Your Ashe, Women's Empowerment Organization.
Wonderful.
Welcome.
To our show. And Coach D.
All right. Coach D, name is Deetra Williams. I am the executive director and founder of Each One Save One and Bridge the Gap Committee of Maryland, where my number one pillar is relationship retention. So.
Ooh, I like that. Yes, relationship retention.
What do you represent?
Oh my goodness.
What organization?
I am here with the Women's Wellness Lounge. We're here in our space, so I just absolutely love it. You know, we're here to bridge the gap between healthy living and what? Healthcare. So we enjoy that people have access to healthcare, but what does that mean? How does that translate into healthy living? And so that's part of what we're going to be talking about today. So.
Absolutely. And I'm Rebecca Food, and I'm from R&D Associates, and I'm also with Johns Hopkins, but for this occasion, I'm representing R&D Associates. And we're so thankful for funding from Baltimore City Health Department and the Centers for Disease Control that's making this podcast series BMore Unfiltered Wellness and Sex Series. So welcome, and February again is Black History Month and Black Love Month. So how should we start?
I think we should start with the wellness part of it. Okay, we're going to talk about the heart first. Let's go ahead and talk about the heart, because in a couple of ways, we all know the heart has 4 chambers, right?
Yes.
That can be broken down into so many different things, not just about the anatomy of it, but
right.
What does it represent, right? We're talking about our heart, right? Talking about protecting our heart in so many different ways, both in a health-related, physical way. What do we do? Make sure that we're taking care of our heart, but then also, what does it mean to protect our heart? That's what I think you all want to hear about. You don't want me to talk about that. Let's get into that, okay? That's for another show when we talk about making sure your cardio, eat right, and all that kind of stuff. Boring. That's another show. We're gonna jump into how to protect and guard our heart for this BMore Unfiltered show. So I guess I'm gonna start with you. Okay. What does it mean for you, or what do you talk with some of the ladies in your empowerment sessions about self-love and guarding and protecting their hearts? What does that mean overarching?
So overarching, one of the things that we get into when we talk about self-love, I start with self-rituals, and I talk about this in my book, African Womanhood in the 21st Century. Y'all go copy.
Yes.
Because she's an author.
So when I think of self-rituals, a lot of people go to our massages and pleasurable touch and understanding our bodies, and that is great. But it's also, are you in tune with the good, the bad, and the ugly? Mm-hmm. Are you recognizing the cycles that's happening in your life? So, for example, some of us deal with seasonal depression.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, the self-ritual that happens in self-love and self-care is, September, okay, November is rolling around, it's cloudy outside, it's cold. what do I start putting in place
Yes.
to protect my heart, to
Right.
protect my spirit? So you might have activities that you do where you're not in isolation, where you're in group settings.
Right.
You
That's
may
so important.
switch up your diet. So just practical approaches to self rituals, things that you can create on a cycle for yourself. So,
And I think that starts with what you said, and that's being in tune. If we're not in tune, we don't know what our body requires or what
That's
it needs,
true.
right? You know, it gives us signals. All right. Then Coach D, what does that mean for you from a relationship? What does she call it? Relationship retention. Hey!
And bring it out. So
How does that translate into the individual, right? When we talk about relationship retention, because this was on the individual. Now let's translate that into you're now in a relationship. So what does that look like when we're talking about fostering that within a relationship, and not just for you as an individual, but fostering that in a relationship?
Well, we know there's such a thing called self-love, right?
Yeah.
And that we have an individual relationship with ourselves.
Right.
And all too often, we don't know if that relationship is a healthy or a negative or positive relationship based on the environment we was raised upon. We begin to measure it against relationships that appear to be healthy or unhealthy or do not fit in that framework with ours, right? But how do I incorporate that with relationships is because what happens in relationships? We get together, we say forever and together, but what happened? Throughout the long haul, relationships are breaking down, they're not staying together, and it's because of what in the hearts of hearts, which is not in our chest. I don't know, we were taught that our hearts of hearts is in our chest, our hearts of hearts is truly in our subconscious mind, right? And our body is the third part thing to go into place, right? But it's all about building, not just getting relationships, but sustaining relationships. It's about sustainability. And this is something that we're not seeing because there's a breakdown in number one, self-love, self-care, self-identity, self-trust. And if those things are not actually in place within ourselves, it's going to be hard to, and if they're not healthy, to actually retain a relationship with someone who identify with those poor behaviors or who have the opposite of yourself.
That's so important.
that is very, very important. Whenever I do relationship training, I start with me. You know, think about when you were a child. You're so centered about me, my needs. I'm gonna cry so I can get this for me. You know? So it is like being in touch with me, you know, in our childhood ways. And then we observe the people the closest around us. So we learn so much about relationship, crying needs, and how needs are met by the families that we have. And then our circle grows when we're in school, then it's their peers. So we're building that relationship with peers, people in the neighborhood. And then when we become teenagers and stuff like that, we get into like a different kind of relationship, intimate relationship. So all these steps we take with ourselves and we build our knowledge about relationships or the experiences that we have. So that formative years is so important because the reward that we receive, the nurturing we receive, influences us in the long haul. And then we get into adult life and we carry it in adult life, whether it's a traumatic experience or whether it's a healthy relationship. Now, let me ask you, what does a healthy relationship look like? Because what I hear often is like young people are telling us, Ms. Roca, we hear so much about unhealthy relationships. We don't hear enough about healthy relationships. This is Black Love Month, Black History Month. What makes healthy relationship? Let's tell our girls. What's a healthy relationship?
So you want to know what I want to pull from what you just described. So what you just described in what we call an urban philosophical frame, we call it identifying your social past. A lot of relationships need to investigate what your social past was. What was your first time experience? What happened? Who did it? When did you do it? How early was it? How was it? These are some of the vulnerable questions that we gotta ask in the beginning of a relationship because it will inform. Questions like, were your parents together? What are the patterns with your aunties and your uncles? When we begin to investigate the social past, that's kind of like the foundation. of a healthy relationship. I've been with my man, going on 8 years. 8 years, you know. However, I will say I've been married before more than once. So I understand what worked, and now I'm understanding what is working. What works is that trifusion. And the trifusion is your relationship with spirit and your relationship with yourself, your mate's relationship with him or herself, and then you put it together. You have to have something that drives the entire unit. So each person in the relationship is an entity, and then the relationship is an entity. So I connect spirit into what is healthy for us. Consent and boundaries is healthy. My elders would say a little glue. So we're gonna talk about sex. And we call, the tasteful way, we call that the glue. You're gonna need that glue. You're gonna need that glue regularly to make things stick together. So these are just some of the tidbits that
Stick together.
That glue.
Good.
Keep this censored, okay? That glue. Absolutely, and I like how you said that because I think anyone, regardless of where you are in your walk in a relationship, right, you can relate to what you just shared. And I think for most of us, when we look at longevity and when we look at our social past or our relationship past, sometimes we don't want to do the work. Right? Because it could be traumatic, it could be hurtful, it could be, well, that was then, I wanted to leave that back there, I've gotten through that. That's good, but how has that shaped you for now, right? How has that shaped how you choose your mate? So I think we have to make sure that we do the work, even if it's at some point traumatic or harmful or hurtful to us. We have to do the work.
Or uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You gotta think about it. We have to get comfortable with understanding that being uncomfortable is a part of growth.
Absolutely.
Stretching,
Yeah.
Moving, going, doing, so it's just so very important when it comes to what is a healthy relationship. And I'm gonna be honest with you. What does a healthy relationship look like? Would depend on what generation you come from. Let's start there. Or your culture, your culture.
Yeah.
Culture plays a big part of it because for some of the African American inner city kids, a healthy relationship for some of us, if he's taking care of me, he may cuss me out, but he come home. That it depends on the person. It's an individual thing, and unfortunately, it's not like a one size fit all.
But isn't that still negative?
It's definitely.
So it's just how people perceive it. Yeah.
Because these conversations are being more had now than before.
Right.
That's why we need to have intergenerational.
Yes, and that's why, because it used to be what goes on in my house
Stays in my house.
We don't talk about it. Back then we wouldn't dare. What? You're all over the internet talking about this, sharing what goes on in my house, in my business. How dare you? It stays in our house or maybe in our church or just in our social circles, but never out for public consumption.
Yeah.
So
we're
that's
making
why
that consumption.
exactly, and that's why most of the youth now struggle with that. Or where they're getting it from, is it reliable, or it's too much too in your face without explanation. So they deal with all of this, and when you have too much coming at you, and you can't decipher what's healthy, what isn't, what's useful, and what's not, there comes confusion.
That's why we have established the ambassadors for promoting sexual health in diverse communities right here in Baltimore with funding from Baltimore City Health Department, and we are part of that community, that collaborative to promote sexual health. So then let's talk about intimacy then. So when my conversation with you yesterday, you went immediately to intimacy and explain what intimacy is. What is intimacy? And how would you talk about young people about intimacy? And how do you bring that cultural aspect and how we've grown and how it influences us? And what direction would you guide your young people around intimacy?
I want you to ask me a couple of those questions one by one.
Even though she just gonna roll right in. I got a feeling she just gonna go right into it.
So what I try to do when it comes down, now the dictionary version of intimacy, which I'm going to read. But when you're talking to young people and you're talking to elder and you're talking to just a group of different people, sometimes you want to keep things simple. Intimacy is, what are those things that make you bond? What are your bonding factors? That is intimacy. What is that thing that draw you to that person? Because there's different levels of intimacy. Intimacy could be kissing and hugging. But sometimes if you don't kiss for at least 5 seconds, that wasn't a kiss for someone. It may not be intimate because in verses, it's a difference, right? This may not be, this may say, I recognize you.
Right.
This one right here say, I recognize and I feel you and I appreciate you. It sends off different levels. What connects you to intimacy? But I screenshotted this because I wanted to just make it very clear because I didn't have it off the top of my head.
Yes, but she talked about, ask me one by one. I she was gonna have it. I'm gonna screenshot this.
Yeah, so intimacy in a relationship refers to a deep sense of closeness, emotional connection, vulnerability between partners, where individuals feel comfortable sharing their thoughts, feelings, and experiences with each other, often built through trust, acceptance, open communication. Now, you got to think about it. Look how the youth nowadays bond. They bond where? Through social media. Mm-hmm. Most of us bond through social media, so that is an intimate way. But what happens when you have a partner who's not into social media and you're into social media? That would not be an intimate space for you all, right? An intimate space for that person. I'm going to use myself. I have a friend. He is point A to point B. Listen, what's intimate is him is the football, right? Yeah. A good meal. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Me being able to answer the question, like, did you see that interception? And I'm like, yeah, I see it. He dropped the ball, baby. He dropped the ball. And that is understandable, but that takes me into the next portion when it comes to youth. I have this training I do called Understanding Youth Love Language, since we're talking about youth. Yes. So when you understand someone's love language, that's the key, a big part of your intimacy. And youth love language looks a lot different than our love language. It doesn't matter what culture that you're in.
So we are giving youth love language training, Coach Dear. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so that's pretty much a portion. And what it all just boils down to when it comes to intimacy, man, it's a safe place when you think about it. People be in intimate relationships, financial intimate relationships. I can depend on you to give me money, but I can't depend on you to give me emotional support, right? So it's just about being aware, and I'm going to tell you this key part. Having those conversations.
It's a conversation.
It's a conversation.
To what relationship retention? You don't have that conversation in the very beginning, right? It's almost like how we talk about again love language, or how do we connect, how do we relate? Mm-hmm. If I'm not taking that opportunity to share with you that I don't like to be, held or touched this way, or this doesn't, feel intimate to me, or I'm not, relating to you under those circumstances for which, together we can bond under. There becomes this separation, right, and this division from the very beginning, right, which either will propel the relationship forward or the relationship will never manifest into what we intended it to be because we didn't take the opportunity to get through the intimacy part and talk about what that includes.
I'm going to add something. One of the phrases that I share with the women in Rights is intimacy is about into me.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
Am I into me, and is the person into me? Absolutely. When we are spending time, are they asking curious questions, or are they just listening and waiting for their turn to speak? So a reminder is like into me, intimacy.
That's good.
I like that.
Relatable point.
It's also about giving time, right? For that to process. I think so much of our life revolves around media. Mm-hmm. So if we are not talking to each other, because it's all about communication, right? That's what I was talking about. And so communication is a key ingredient to nurturing a relationship. Just like a rose needs water to grow, we need to continuously put water into our heart, into our relationship with communication, and also by doing various activities together. And another way how you talked about
Into
to
me.
me.
It's so sexy.
To me. Okay, so getting that from that person that you are with is even to me, it's into me, and how it's nurturing the you.
Right.
And that makes you feel sexy, right?
Yes,
Yes.
It does. And this is something I said this quote a lot coming up. Being, African American young girl, dark skinned girl, that played a big part in our culture. If you was dark skinned, you was like your skin compliments. You're so cute to be a dark skinned person. You got those type of things.
Caveats.
But I always loved myself, and I used to always tell people that the joy that I have in my heart, the world didn't give it to me, so they couldn't take from me. And I also used to say this even before I believed it, was that there's nothing that nobody else can do to make me happy. They can only add to my happiness.
Yes.
And listen, it is so
your
happiness.
happiness.
And I'm gonna tell you something. I have owned my happiness. It has made me contagious. It has given me a kindred spirit. That's why people take to me. I mean, despite adversity, because I took some time to love on me.
Yes. And that's huge. And I think if this generation, right, if the youth get that, rather than us looking for it outside of ourselves. So back to the intimacy.
Yes.
Like you said, joy is from within. The people or persons around me can only add to that. Because without them, I should be able to still find joy and intimacy from within.
They can add to it. Let them be. Keep that distance.
And that's how we
because
decrease these toxicity and all these other things that we have going on, because we're looking with outside and not within to find that love, that peace, that joy, and all of those things.
So I think we're giving some really important
Oh,
messages.
I think we're being more unfiltered.
So we're preparing for the Akoma experience.
Make sure we got that in before we got done. So
The Akoma experience is a couple singles dating retreat day where we get into some workshops and stuff. So I'm married, y'all. It's unfiltered, right? So
That's great.
I'm excited, and I was talking with my husband, and I was like, babe, we're going to be doing this workshop and training, and this is one of the questions. How would you answer it? So it was an icebreaker. It was like, what first attracted you to your mate? And he was like,
What about you?
You gonna put me on the spot like that?
and then he said, well, there was that time where, and then it wouldn't censor. Okay. And I said, what? He said, okay, if I can't say that, I'm gonna say your smile.
I'm gonna keep it safe. PG then.
I'm saying that. No, say it.
But he was willing to have that conversation and to tell you what that was like, right? And your ears perked up and your heart opened up, like, so what was that?
I think I'm gonna ask my husband that.
As you should.
As you should. And that would cause, especially for men, and we'll talk about this with men, they have to be open. I think we as women are open to talk about the sex, the lack of sex, it not being what we think, what we thought, what we need. I will honestly say, and my husband, if I were to call him up and put him on speaker, he'd be like, oh, not again. I am putting it, like, I will say to him, what will I do if I feel that I'm not being gratified, right? Sexually pleased and our pleasure principle that we talk about. We'll sit down and we'll talk about it. I will not fake, I will not moan, I will not groan, I will not pretend.
Come on.
Like, let's just say, okay, we need to do this, foreplay needs to work, we need to do, whatever.
That's
If it's too
important.
much wham bam, thank you, ma'am. It's, all like, we literally would have the conversation about what it is that may not be, fulfilled in the sexual way. Because again, the intimacy, all that it plays into it. Intimacy is not just about, touch and all that. It's all the things that you talked about. So it's making sure that he understands that this is a process.
Yes.
To start with the end in mind, right? And work your way backwards. You know what you want to have happen, but what are you doing to make that happen?
Right.
That's a deeper
And the reason why
conversation.
we're having this in-depth conversation is because this funding is really about impacting sexual health. And the way to impact sexual health is by having this uncensored conversation with everyone around us, so that they won't be interested in venturing out and get tempted. And so we want to maintain the sexual health for people that we really love, including ourselves. So let's continue to be uncensored.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I
So-
think it's good.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think it
it's
is
good.
really good.
I think it's good because
Yeah. So
it's-
what messages do you have for single people? So we've been talking about, husband. So
You got to put this car in drive.
what are we saying about safer sex?
Well, number one, you need to be very, very transparent with yourself. And this is what I mean. You have to really pull back the layers and say, what am I really seeking, right? Here's a person who would practice abstinence 3, 4, 5 years because I knew that the times I had casual sex, when I laid down and I got up, I felt horrible. You understand what I mean? It was like the most emptiest feeling ever. So I had to have real conversations with myself. What are you seeking? And I said, you know what? It's partnership. It's relationship, it's partnership, it's companionship, it's companionship. So now when you begin to be in a dating world and you begin to change what you are attracting, what you attract will change. I'm gonna say it again.
And you know what? That's not only for singles. That's also for married
It
people.
is.
But married people lose that point.
They lose
And that's
it.
why men and women venture out, because it's not really about the sex. It's about the relationship, the
That's
connection.
the connection.
Yeah.
And that's where the intimacy, and this is why we can't, you have to be intentional. Like when I came in here today and I was talking to the doctor, he got said, this is about me being intentional,
Yes.
right?
First word she said,
Intentional.
Yes.
So which means that when I'm intentional does not mean that I know that I'm gonna like it or not. I don't
Right.
know if it's gonna feel good or not. I don't know if I'm gonna understand what I'm gonna do. But just like when they created the first car, they didn't know the car was gonna go boom until they put the last piece to the car. They didn't know that the internet was gonna work until they put the last fiber optic piece together. They did not know that you was gonna like your makeup until you say woo, until it got onto your face. So we cannot always try to find the results that we're looking for, thinking it's going to be the perfect piece. Is about taking action and putting an actionable plan together, to be intentional, to take those steps. If you don't have lingerie, it's Valentine's Day month, right? It's a love month, right? We're going to flip it. Anything a man try to tear for bad, we'll turn it for good, right? It's a love month, right? We got my heart with each one saving. Got my heart on. Why? Because the reality is, go in your closet, pull clothes out that you can't fit. Spice it up. Them pantyhose with some holes in it, put 20 more holes in them, right? Make it all match. You understand? The shoes that you know you can't wear no past 5 minutes, go put them on for 4.5 minutes. You know, for some music. Exactly. You know, and here's the thing, you can do this alone. And I'm not talking about this for the couples I ain't get to y'all yet. I'm talking about self-love, right? Turn on and put on some music. What do you like?
Yes.
What do you like? It took me out of Shamble Prep that I've been anybody who know me this. I've always been big on self-care because I started teaching it at the Department of Juvenile Services. So I used to focus on the 8 areas all the time.
Right.
So self-care would have taken care of me because I've always done for everybody. I used to quadruple task. Now I'm only multi, right? So so when I go in for my birthday, I got my tripod. I got, flowers getting delivered from me to me. You understand what I'm saying? I got my bottle of wine right there, and that music come on. I got my little speaker up in there. God, baby, burning. I'm up in that thing. Oh shit! In my earphones, I'm in that thing dancing. Out there for myself, keeping sure I still got it. Why? Because it's nothing that I can do for anybody else, what they can do for me. What I have is only an extension to what I'm bringing to your table, and what you about to bring to me is only an extension.
You know what? He will see it.
Yes, he will.
See it, and the right person will gravitate to you, knowing how you love and take care
Of myself. Exactly. That's
So
why I'm
valuing yourself and taking care of yourself and protecting your positive spirit
Yes.
and your boundaries and how you love yourself and nurture yourself. Send flowers to yourself. The right partner will see that as like, that's a woman that knows what she wants and how to take care of herself. So ladies, young girls, project that.
Yes.
Learn to love yourself, learn to nurture yourself. Be independent, strong women. you want to know how, contact us, okay? It may not be easy to develop that skill, that love, that nurturing, but we will work with you. That's
Absolutely.
what this work that we do is all about. And we all need it. It's not only for young ladies, it's for adults, and it's also for seniors.
Right.
The seniors are getting in trouble.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness. And it's so amazing because my niece worked with seniors. That's a whole, no, that's a
That's a whole.
that's a whole nother podcast, right? And
Yes,
we
we
need to interview, I want to see if we can interview a couple of seniors. I know a male senior, right? That lives, the women be all over him, right? And he's fighting them off. He ain't interested here.
I'm telling you, that is a whole podcast. And we honestly, Rebecca, should do that because
We need to.
believe it or not, that is the growing demographic
Yeah.
of people who are now, quote unquote, in trouble in a lot of different ways.
Right.
With STIs, with multiple partners, HIV. Believe it or not, it's because of the gentleman with the smile who now has these women who are widowed, who are looking for and are used to, probably for the majority of their lives, having companionship. And so now they're seniors and they're looking for that companionship, right? And so at this point, they'll take the companionship, regardless of if he's connected to you or you. I just want companionship. If I have him on Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm okay with that. If you have them on Thursday, Friday, I'm okay with that as well, right? Because they're in a different season in their life and they're okay with that. But with that comes consequences, right? Health consequences.
Yeah.
Not necessarily sometimes as emotional, right? But health consequences. So I think that is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, those kinds of consequences also happen to young people. What you talked about in terms of, practicing abstinence because you realized when you were having casual sex how bad you felt.
It was empty.
Everybody feels that
Empty,
empty. But what we hear a lot from young people, younger ladies, is like their first experience with sex was just horrible. One is like, is this it? And the other is that for many girls, it was not something that they sought. It was forced upon them. So we feel really unfortunate that there's so much sexual abuse that happens within family. And if that happens, please seek help. There are 411 for people that need emergency care or counseling. So at any point in your life, you can actually seek out help to really heal yourself. When you heal yourself, love yourself, you end up being a better lover.
And then I would charge the younger crowd, right? I know sometimes we need to become the change that we want to see. So if you hear this podcast, take the initiative to reach out to one of us. We'll come hold a ceremony, hold a podcast or a love circle, a healing circle, a sister circle. We will, and then for the men, we have Brother Curtis, who have a healing circle for men. Who will take the initiative to break the ice, right? To break the ice, to say that I'm going to hold a space to have these uncomfortable conversations because I want to be able to identify what a healthy relationship looks like. Because what I'm seeing is not what I thought it was. It was cute that they had the clothes, they had the glitz, the glamour, the nails is done, but I don't like the fact that I see her crying every other day. And her self-esteem is very low because I know that he's cheating because he's talking to a friend. We have to just create these spaces and not just go look for these spaces, right? Create these spaces. And that's just a call of action to somebody who's going to see this.
Yeah, and don't think of us as old ladies talking about young people. We're going to have young people, just like we're going to have senior section, we're going to have a youth section as well. And just because we're all women, it doesn't mean that our show's about women only. We're going to, like Coach D said, we will be having men. I mean, Curtis or Wesley and so many others, and you're going to see them in the next few shows. And we're going to have resources. So we're going to post our information so you can contact us. And we are a wonderful resource, again, ambassadors to promote sexual health in diverse communities right here in BMore. BMore Unfiltered, wellness and sex.
Absolutely, yes.
So what are the safer sex? I think we've given so much tip about healthy relationships. So if young people or seniors are ready, feel comfortable about their relationship and they want to take the next step and be really deep and intimate, what do we tell them to do? To practice safer sex. Okay.
Get some contraceptive before when you know you're going on a date. How we say, stay ready so you ain't got to get ready, right? If you know you're going on a date, I had to start doing this to be intentional because my mind is so relationship driven, right? And I have these conversations, resets, spice up your relations with Lady D's Orgasmic Sensation. That's Lady D speaking.
So intentional is very good. I think we should be intentional in every aspect of our relationship.
Right.
That.
But to purchase and have it with you, just like you go buy a cigarello, let's keep it real, or go purchase a soda or whatever it is that you purchase. Be intentional.
Be ready for the
Ready.
moment. So that's the contraceptive will actually protect you from what? Pregnancy. What else should we be worried about in terms of protection?
Sex, get some condoms.
Yeah.
Pick up a pack of condoms while you're on your way. Get them from the bar.
Consistently have a condom. Be prepared to use a condom. Know how to use a condom.
Know
Have it
how to-
handy so that you won't get caught. Like I was not really prepared. I was going with the mood. Don't let the fact that you're not prepared, you're not intentional, you don't have a condom, really ruin things for you. But also, we talk so much about the importance of communication. So if you got that solid with your partner, you already discussed that. You already discussed when you're gonna be intimate, and you're gonna discuss about both of you getting tested.
Getting tested.
And STI before you even have the condom and before you introduce contraception. So always be ready. So, having a partner that you can talk to is so very important.
Listen.
And believe it or not, people are becoming more and more comfortable with just saying the thing like, hey, one of the women in my organization, she started dating. She was like, okay, I think I'm ready to have the conversation with him. She was like, yeah, so this is how I'm going to say it. And I was like, okay, and what boundaries are you going to give? What time frame are you going to give him to go get tested? And they end up having a conversation and going to get tested at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful.
Yeah.
So
And I like that she
It's
felt
a good way to start a relationship. Yeah, it's hard to be just together. I love it.
And here's a quote that popped up. I gotta say this before I forget it.
Okay.
Talking about sex, protective sex can be a mood killer, but it's a life giver, right? It's a life giver because if you know someone's status and your status, right? You may just become intimate. Remember, kissing, hugging, embracing each other. Take another long walk for another week, but know your status. It may kill the mold, but listen, it's going to save your life in the end.
It's really interesting how we think about that because we're easy to introduce intimacy, but we have these challenges about communication, about
Yeah.
I do not know what the barrier to that
The
conversation
intimate act
is.
is one of the most vulnerable. The giving of yourself. So when we put it like that, right? When we think of the consequences behind just that one simple act, the conversation should be a drop in the bucket. A drop in the bucket.
I agree.
In comparison, that conversation,
Of that
yes, it's just a drop in the bucket. When I think about what is happening in the moment of that sexual encounter, what's happening supersedes that drop in the bucket.
Yes, it
I'm
does.
on.
That drop in the bucket to say, I need to have that
Absolutely.
conversation. Like what the woman that you just shared, to simply sit down. And I like the fact that she wanted to have the conversation and maybe even role play so that to role play that he says this, what are you gonna say? He says this, what are you gonna say? It's kind of like the role play that she trusts you enough or whoever she's role playing with to say, well, if he
Be
says this,
intentional.
what are
That's
you gonna
right.
say? If
Right.
he doesn't agree, are you willing to let me share? Like really delve deep into what that looks like.
I'm so glad you brought that up because, we talked about boundaries, the importance of our boundaries, but communication practice, role plays, and negotiation skills are just so important. Really, so part of our training is about that.
Yeah.
What to say, how to say it, what your boundaries are, and then within the peer group, you're gonna talk about practice your communication skills. And so you'll be completely ready to have this intimate conversation with a partner that you're ready to go to the next level with.
Yeah. And understanding that it's a sacred space.
Mm-hmm.
I have taught financial intimacy classes, right? So we talk about this idea in financial intimacy. Does your partner have your PIN number? Does your partner have access to your bank? Most people be like, no, you tripping. And then I say, and this is unfiltered, right? How often do you have it wrong? And it's like, just something so sacred, but this money over here. So then it was a shift in what we value. Do we value this money,
More,
this
come
material,
on.
more than this sacred entity, the barrier of life?
Come on.
So, baby, we really break the ice.
Yes.
On both.
That's how we
concepts.
become
The
real
pillars.
uncensored.
Come
The
on.
pillars and the points around, believe it or not, physical and financial pillars really mirror one another. And what
They
we
do.
talked about as it relates to the pen, the access, the monitoring, the deep conversations, your relationship around finances. So I call it physical and physical. That physical and physical responsibility are interrelated.
Come on here.
Yes, come on.
Come on.
It is
Yes.
deep. It is very, very deep.
Yeah.
And we gotta have hard boundaries, just like how you have a hard boundary to say, no, you cannot have my pen, you ain't got access to my money. No, you can't have my pen.
Oh, I like that. Come on, Mama, give me that. I like it.
You ain't got access to the queen purse. You gotta just be that
This person, that person.
Monetizing our relationship. Can we talk about that? And I don't want to really think it's just young people that are doing that. But there's such a pull towards men that have money that we are compromising our values. And our young people are putting themselves in danger in so many ways. How do we approach that issue?
Well, showing boundaries, talking about in those spaces of what healthy relationship. It goes
From
by
loving yourself,
Loving
right?
yourself,
Then you
love.
will not monetize your body.
self-love, like having those conversations, because who's your role model? We don't realize we all role models model in a role, right?
Social media, that's the whole most horrible
It's the
thing.
thing, and this is where they get it
That's what
from.
they're promoting.
It's things. Most people spend so much money on them. They don't
Yes.
put enough money, spending money in them.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm a person, I'm an in you girl more so than on you type of girl, even though I clean up real good, right? So, but they don't put money in them, which means they're mine, because nothing sits still. And when it's so many different facets. You got culture, you got relationship, you got health, you got wealth, you got all these conversations. And when it all boils down, they're not being had.
Yes.
This is what it boils down to.
We need proper propaganda.
We need
Proper propaganda, positive propaganda.
Positive.
This is what we're going to be doing.
Yes.
Because these podcasts are going to have snippets, and then we're going to be blasting through Instagram positive messages for our young people, for our women, for our men, for our seniors, for everybody, and for parents, so that parents can just really pour into their children, men, boys, and girls, so that we can really create healthier ways of communicating and loving ourselves and loving each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this has
Well,
been
this has been
wonderful.
wonderful. Absolutely.
No,
What you
okay.
about to say, Mom?
I was about to drop you
Why
out.
give us
That's
some
you made me
time?
think.
Let go.
You made me think of recently I won third place in the pitch competition. And it's to pitch a short film where we have a dialogue between women and girls about sex and first time experiences. And the last words that I will say to anyone out there is, you're not alone. You know, as we have this hand, each of us represents a finger. And when we pull together, when we come together, we know that there's so much power, there's so much understanding, there's so much compassion that we can bring to each other. So you're not alone. We're here. We have a network amongst us, and we're ready to do the work. So
we're not about judgment, we're about empowering all of us
Absolutely.
together.
We listen and we don't judge.
We listen and
We don't judge, right?
We get advice, and the decision is always on you.
That's
So
your
we
power.
want you to make an informed decision. That's where the power lies. We can just provide information, and it's up to you what you do with the information. So contact us and invite us to be at your place to have these honest, unfiltered,
Honest,
Healthy,
unfiltered conversation.
healthy relationship.
about wellness and sex. And we're so grateful for Baltimore City Health Department and the CDC for providing us the support to have this kind of conversation to empower all of us, boys, girls, children,
Yes.
and us adults and seniors and everybody and parents. I want to call out the parents, our guardians, because they have so much power in influencing our young generation.
And I will say this: if somebody who's in the school system, because I have to connect with the elementary school, and they want me to come out and talk to the kids, and we have to find creative ways to entwine it. Even in elementary school, he got in trouble on Friday, my son, because somebody said say sex, and I love sex. And he go rambling on, I love sex, not knowing what he's saying in the context that he's saying it in, because they're just making sex to be like, oh, it's this giggly word. It's just this, random. Sex is a part of life, right? So it's why I'm not afraid of even having that conversation, because it's because of me and my actionable steps, right? I take no credit. I took action. I always had a big bag, a Ziploc bag by my front door, and my daughter was the only girl. We got 3 girls and 7 boys, and my nephews, they didn't just pop off and have a bunch of children, because they knew they can come on Diddy and get some condoms by the door. And then when the new ones come out, the Bailey skins, I'll be like, look what I got.
Right.
Let me show you what you got, right? So having these conversations is so needed, even down when it comes to the elementary school kids. It's just the delivery. Like we were very tactful. We read in place the word sex. We just had this conversation. It is not this horrible word. Sex. No, we're here because that is a part of life. Male and female are the same, or the opposites of the same species, right? And we're all here to procreate and to be a part of like upgrading this earth, right? So I encourage you, parents. Invite us out, elementary school, daycares. I mean, start having these conversations. We can make it Mickey and Mouse, but we want to understand. We want to go beyond good and bad touch. And we'll be honest, good and bad touch is not being taught enough. That's a part of sexual health. I'm invited to go to a early child care center. And this month, I forgot to tell you, I need to look on the calendar that they sent me. So, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to push this with parents. We're talking about sexual health, the good and bad touch. It's not being talked about enough. We're coming away from principles like that. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and parents don't know that's going on because we this new level of, I'm busy. We so busy, but we not busy. We got our cell phones like this all the times. We feeding our kids these tablets, and people are separated in quiet spaces. That's not always good.
So let's summarize the key points. No, it's very good. Let's summarize the key points from our conversation as we close. And this condom piece is also important because there are free resources for condoms. So you can have condoms shipped directly to your home every month, because condoms have gotten really expensive. We don't want that to really stand in the way from people practicing safer sex. But key pieces of information that we shared today is the importance of communication, the importance of loving and nurturing ourselves. Since we were kids, we learn about relationship, and it's because of those experiences we are who we are. If there are trauma, if there are unresolved issues, there's always help. It's never too late to seek out help. Practice safer sex, and we talked about what safer sex is. We talked a lot about what is healthy communication and what is healthy relationship and what is unhealthy relationship. So find a person that values you, invests in you, uplifts you as you uplift yourself. So we are a resource here for you. We'll come to your church, to your association, whatever it is, this kind of conversation, and listen from you things that are buried that you don't want to be talking about, because this is uncensored. Thank you so much for being with us. Yes.
So we're going to make the heart, because we appreciate you. Self-love starts within. We talk about the 4 chambers of the heart, and I think that you all got something that will feed those 4 chambers of your heart. Again, I'm Delina Watkins, signing out from the Women's Wellness Lounge, and we have
Mama Nina
and Atnafu.
and the one and only Coach D.
Thank you. Until next time, as we be more unfiltered.
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 That was powerful by herself.
Hopefully
There we
the